Hi, Mom. So I got my ticket home from Europe. I get back on June 6th, but it's a really late flight because that was the cheapest, so it gets in at midnight. But don't worry, I'll get a shuttle from the airport so you don't have to pick me up. Like, really seriously, you don't have to. Okay, so love you. See you soon. Bye.
Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Gone Home for the Nintendo Switch. The premise of the story is incredibly simple. Basically, you're in control of a college girl by the name of Katie who went on a trip abroad, and when she has returned home, she finds that her parents and her younger sister are nowhere to be found. The object of the game is to search the house and see if you can piece together what happened during her time away. You do so in a PC-style wander around in first-person view, grab items, rotate them to get different angles, and eventually you get little tidbits of the story depending on what you interact with. Honestly, the best part of this game is seeing how well they capture the vintage 90s, because the game takes place in 1995. So if any of you were alive during that time, or if you want to know, like, ooh, I wonder what life was like back in the 90s, this is a really good way to do it, because they have some authentic tools that help you really feel immersed. Like, you can find old Super Nintendo games, including Super Mario Kart and A Link to the Past. And then you can also find the combinations for all of Chun-Li's moves in Street Fighter. There's blatant product advertisements. There's enough fictional content here where it doesn't feel like this entire game is a cash grab. Like, for instance, you might find the main character's father's manuscripts that are clearly fake, but boy does it have a convincing picture of President Kennedy. The cool thing about this game is that there are a lot of modifiers, so if you're the type of player that loves options, this game has a ton of them. If you're afraid of the dark, which the game literally mentions, you can have the option to turn on all of the lights before you come in. You can adjust the brightness so that you don't have to stumble in the dark trying to find a light switch. Thankfully, that hardly ever was a problem for me, as the light switch was typically right next to the door, or I'd just find a lamp or a lantern to turn on. Pointing and clicking at the objects were really simple as well, even though it took a bit of trial and error to figure out the sensitivity of how quickly the cursor would move, because the game didn't allow for inverted controls like I'm used to in games like Breath of the Wild, so I think it would have been cooler if there was an option to use the Joy-Con's motion controls to point and click, but perhaps they wanted to simulate those Xbox 360 games, and so this is an okay substitute. While recording this footage, I turned down the sensitivity considerably after when I had played the game the first time, and I found it a lot more manageable this time. That, coupled with the fact that I already knew what I was doing. So the voice acting in this game is really, really good. There's not that much of it, granted, but the few that exists is pretty amazing, considering that they only have 2 voice actors and there are no cutscenes. Everything is as you want it to be. So you even have the option to open all doors, you can turn off the commentary. There's even a map of the house in case you get lost, albeit kind of a useless map, but at least it's better than nothing. The problem with all of these modifiers is that once you turn them on, you can't turn them off or vice versa until you start an entirely new game over again. So there were quite a few times where I had to resort to using the capture button on my Switch to take a picture of certain info, and then I would have to go into the home menu, then open up my album and keep referencing that, whereas it would have been so much easier if maybe I could have just opened the map, but I had turned off the map because I thought maybe that'll make the HUD all cluttered, which I always hate. Which, it's cool that you can look at this with no clutter except for the cursor, but it stinks that there couldn't have been an option to turn off the map, or turn back on the map. So basically you really want to think before you turn something on or off in the modifiers. There's also developers' commentary, although once you see my upcoming review of the story, I highly doubt I'm ever going to use it. Gone Home is a pretty short game. If you know what you're doing, you can probably beat it in about maybe an hour, give or take. if you don't know what you're doing, you could potentially play this game infinitely because there are a ton of objects that you can look at, rotate, and just basically be like, whoa, so this is what it looked like in the 90s. And the house is really huge. Like, man, are these people like loaded with dough or something? Because who can afford a house with that many bathrooms and seemingly endless floors? So, yeah, this is very much a non-linear point-and-click adventure game. Now, this game is also totally reliant on its story to progress forward, because you will encounter the occasional locked door or somewhere where you can't proceed, and you have to find certain clues within the house to figure out how you're going to get past those roadblocks. And while those were never overly challenging, you do have the option to turn them off just in case they are, so you shouldn't ever need to consult a walkthrough. Nevertheless, if you want to beat the game, you're going to have to eventually find the conclusion to the story. And while it's not totally necessary that you know the story to proceed, I know some people will just want this for the exploration and nothing else, you do have to find something that's story related in order to get the official ending. But if you want to just explore the house at your own pace, you can. There's not really any point in ending the game, so this can go on pretty much indefinitely. And then as soon as you want to turn it off, you can. I just got the ending because so I could see the credits and say I beat the game, even though I wasn't entirely satisfied with the finale. I also didn't particularly enjoy the story because it's told very non-linearly, which was one of my big beefs with Breath of the Wild storyline, and you pretty much have to piece together everything and figure out, like, okay, what exactly happened? Let's try to put everything together and create our own timeline. So, with that, Gone Home, your biggest enjoyment is gonna be based on two factors. Either do you like just exploring a house to your heart's content with no penalty, no life bar, no timer, absolutely nothing is getting in your way. Heck, you could leave the TV blaring, keep flushing the toilet over and over again. You can leave the faucets on. No one's going to care. No one's going to kick you out of the house. There are no jump scares, so even though this may seem like a horror game, it's not. Yeah, there's literally no way you can lose. The game just lets you keep going on indefinitely. As far as the story, yes, it's optional, but the game is designed with that type of progression in mind, so. And just to warn you, this game is rated M, so be prepared to find a lot of, say, inappropriate magazines or topic matters that are of a very mature nature. I don't want to spoil it, but suffice to say I'm going to make a separate video talking about the content of the story and what I think of it. So with that, do I still think that this game is worth a buy? Well, yeah, but if you're a Catholic or don't want to be held back by disturbing mature content, then I think you either might want to skip it or just turn off the story and commentary and just make it to the ending point. And it's pretty obvious where it is, even if you don't play the story. So if you're the type that's like, I don't want a story that's like this, then you're fine. You ought to be able to beat through the game, no problem. This game doesn't want to bash morals over you. If you don't like all the occult stuff that it throws at you, you can just ignore it. You can toss the Ouija board on the floor, for that matter. Do you not like the fact that the game gives you a crucifix in a dark room? You don't have to pick it up. There's a Bible in one drawer. You can be sacrilegious about it. I think that's kind of terrible, but you can still do it. Or you can look at the Bible, even though, strangely, you can't open it. With that, I have mixed feelings about this game, but I like the fact that you have options, and I'm sure I'll experiment with it over and over again to just see what style of gameplay is best for me, because overall I like the concept, I just don't like the execution, but maybe that's just because I played it the wrong way. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for my Catholic review of the story, which should be coming right around the same time as I upload this, if all things go as planned. So with that, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and make sure to give your parents a call if you ever go abroad and return home, because you don't want a situation like this. Bye.